Hello, I'm Jack White, and I feel right at home wearing this old skimmer in front of this warehouse because at one time it was one of the liveliest spots in San Diego. It was known as Mickie Finn's, the #1 speakeasy in San Diego. And this evening we're going to find out whatever happened to Mickie Finn. Then Elena Cota is going to show you her own recipe for Mexican salsa. And we'll visit with Don Livingston, a country music singer who also makes Western hats. Then John Beatty tells us about a children's festival in Japan that takes place each year on November the 15th. That's the lineup on this week's Jack White's Journal. I'm going into the speakeasy. Why don't you join me? From the mid-1960s all the way through the mid-1970s, Mickie Finn's Speakeasy on University Avenue was one of the hottest gathering places in Southern California. What made Mickie Finn such an exciting place? Well, part of it was the ragtime music created by this fellow, Fred Finn. Fred sold his nightclub in North Park in the mid-1970s, and he took his special kind of music on the road. But a few weeks ago, he came back to San Diego to play a concert for the benefit of his late friend and fellow musician, Junior Gance. And the audience loved him. After the show, I asked Fred what he'd been doing since he left San Diego and if he missed the city.
Yes and no. It was 14 years. Which is maybe 7 years experience twice. I do miss San Diego for all its fun and its beauty and its people. But we're very happy in Las Vegas. We have a nice home and family and a lot going on there in the entertainment business. And we're all over the country, but primarily at Union Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas year-round. So yes, I miss San Diego, and I'm here to visit, and I love it, but our home now is in Las Vegas.
If you had it to do all over again, what would you do to change the Mickie Finns that you had here in San Diego?
Absolutely nothing. We had 3 million people through the doors during those 14 years, and it's got to be probably the happiest time in my life. Now, I'm just as happy at this point in time, and I think about it very fondly. It's kind of hard to turn the clock back, but we did that today with the people. I had almost forgotten, and maybe you did too, how much fun it was to get the people singing and stomping and laughing and scratching, and got a bunch of the guys from the band together. And so I feel real good here. So I can't turn the clock back. I'm glad it happened. I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Do you get to see very many of the old Mickie Finn gang?
Oh yeah, they come up and see the show quite often. We see them and correspond with them and talk with them. And Las Vegas seems to be a place where everybody gets to at one point or another. So we have a lot of dinners and a lot of reunions up there.
That's music Fred Finn style. Still working, still bringing the house down. In Good Taste takes us to the kitchen of Elena Cota, one of our favorite chefs here on Jack White's Journal, and we are going to make a little Mexican salsa for you, which is really the topping of almost every Mexican dish, is it not?
I think so.
What do we start with, Elena?
Well, let's start with the chilies that have been broasted. That is, they have been put into the oven, rather the broiler, and they have been roasted very carefully, and then they were placed in a bag and allowed to sweat. And by rubbing them, massaging them a little bit, we're able to peel them very, very nicely. We're going to use the California pepper today.
The Anaheim or the California. All right, and that's what we've been peeling.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Now we have roasted our tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to do the same thing. They can peel very,
Just
very
peel
easily.
them. All right.
Mhm.
I'll just help you out here.
Okay.
An old hand at peeling
Great.
tomatoes.
Okay. Oh,
Some say tomato, some say tomato.
yes. In Spanish, one would say jitomate.
Tomate.
Jitomate. And then don't worry about it because we will break it open. We will mash it a little bit.
Into the dish. The next step is to chop our onions. Is that
Okay.
you need about 4 small
About
onions?
three or four.
Mm-hmm.
And very carefully we take the tip so we don't have a lot of waste. And then instead of just using the whites, we minced all the way to the top.
Into the tomatoes they go.
Mhm. And then the next thing is our garlic, and this is an easy way to
Oh, you just mashed your garlic, really.
press the garlic, and instead of a garlic presses, I think one wastes. Now we're going to add the minced garlic.
Mm-hmm. Put her on the knife, and in she goes.
Yes,
Well, that's minced very fine.
yes. Okay. Now
Now the chilies.
the chilies. We just put them all together and a few whacks.
I wish we had smell-o-vision, Elena, because the aroma from all of this is becoming very enticing.
I know, and after when we taste it,
That's the proof.
that's the proof, yes. Now we have the coriander or cilantro. Let's see. This is much better fresh. It is available dry, or the coriander seeds, but we like to use it fresh. Now we're ready to put.
Peppers
you-
go in, or chilies.
Yes, the chilies, we like to say chiles. Let's put a chile güero in, just a little bit.
Just a little chile güero. Now, what's that
Güero.
going to güero? What's that going to add?
Güero.
Let's put one of those in.
Chile güero is a blonde chili.
Just like we put a little. There we go.
Now we're going to mix it all together, and if you want a more liquidy consistency, then we can add some tomato sauce.
That's because the chilies were actually a pretty big chili.
Yes.
And that is real
Salsa.
salsa.
This-
I suppose the best way now is to just try it with a little tortilla, huh?
Yes, Jack, and the secret to a warm tortilla is always get the one in between.
Ah, of
Never
course.
fail. It's
Nice and warm in there.
Yes.
Okay. Just take it right down here.
and make a little scoop like this. See?
Oh, this is the way you live, folks. And it's yours, in good taste.
I grew up a-dreaming of being a cowboy and living the cowboy way.
Oh, I must have been, I guess, 8 years of age, and one of my big heroes was Tex Ritter, and we were out at my uncle's place, outside of San Antonio, Texas. He had a real nice ranch out there, and Tex Ritter, one night, we were invited to a barbecue, and he happened to show up, and I got to stick his hat on my head, and from that time on, basically, I guess I've been a total hat freak, is what you call. I guess my interest in hats started somewhere when I was 5 or 6 years old, when my grandfather gave me a hat, and I started collecting them. A lot of people take pictures and what they do. What I do, I buy a hat wherever I've gone, all over my performing career and throughout different cities. I've told hat companies that I thought that I could do all this stuff without having adequate tools, because in the olden days, you
would see old cowboy movies and see these people wearing hats, and then you think about in the 1850s when these people were actually wearing hats, how in the Sam Hill did they ever farm one of these things without a steamer? I'm sure, like a majority of people, with an old iron kettle, you can get a kettle and boil water and get just as good a steam. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the brim on this hat, and for the life of me, I've tried to do this without this little thing that I'm going to put on here called a shackle iron, and I just it just amazes me how they would even how they could even get what I'm going to do without having the actual tool. I hunted and hunted and hunted for one of these things. This particular shackle iron is I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 years old. I like to use good name brands, you know, like Resistol and like Stetson and Eddie Brothers and Bailey and Miller and Biltmore, a fine operation out of Canada, but they're selling strictly to their steady customers. And I'm in a relatively small volume, so what I do, I try to buy seconds, then I redo the hat, rebuild it, shape it, style it, give it some type of personality, put a custom band on it, and we can go from there. A lot of people are creative. You know, I get a lot of ideas. I'm not going to lie. I get a lot of ideas on custom bands from ideas from the normal individual that would walk into the street, right off the street in here. Guy had me design him a rattlesnake hat band, Indian head nickel, silver concho in the middle with a little piece of raccoon fur, and I didn't think it was going to turn out very well, but the way the thing actually turned out when it was stuck on his hat was a very interesting bit of work, and I'll probably use I won't steal the idea. You never steal anything. You borrow. You know, some people prefer just a little simple ribbon around the hat for decoration, and some people, I had a girl, for instance, that came in a few months ago and ordered a black hat and had me cut a rattlesnake skin, size 7, and she wanted white fox fur all the way around the top of the band. She wanted a custom styled concho in the middle with Indian signs on it, being some type of significance toward the tribe, and it cost her $160 to have that. I personally wouldn't have walked down the street in it, but that's what she wanted. Been to any of these places, any of these nice spots recently? I got my first experience in one the other day, and it was pretty interesting. It's different when you perform on stage. You get a different concept of the nightlife, and when you're on the other end, of the spectrum, and you're watching those guys up there playing, sometimes I sort of feel that I'm not supposed to be there. That's why I enjoy doing this, because I feel like basically I'm isolated. For all my life, since I was 6 years old, I've been isolated from the people on the other side of this imaginary line. And when I'm down here doing what I thoroughly enjoy doing, it's a very, I feel like sometimes Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm one character during the day, and I assume a different role at night. And basically, I guess, you know, this is entertainment. Yeah, I started playing a guitar when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and was real fortunate, even before that, of playing on the radio when I was 6 for lasted 1 year on a little show called the Star-Kissed Amateur Hour. And from there went on into doing some basic stage work around San Antonio. So I guess all in all, I've been involved in the entertainment industry directly or indirectly for at least my entire life. My parents really never pushed me into it. I guess if anybody pushed me into the industry of entertainment, it was my grandfather. I used to travel with him. He used to have ran pinball machines all over the southwest part of the United States, really Texas, down and through that area. And I would travel with him, and he would carry along a little soapbox, and I would get on that thing and would sing with no instrumental background whatsoever, just myself, when it's roundup time in Texas and Home on the Range and Sioux City Sue and things that have sort of been forgotten. That was when I was just a small boy. Those were some of the cowboy, the true cowboy songs that were out. And the bug bit me. Other little boys during their younger years wanted to be baseball players and wanted to be football players or doctors or firemen or policemen. I always wanted to stand up in front of people and play a guitar and sing. That's the only thing my entire life I ever wanted to do.
My heroes have always been cowboys, and they still are, it seems, sadly in search of and one step in back of themselves and their slow-moving dreams.
And I hope when I am 65 years old, I'll basically be doing identically the same thing. I can't really conceive myself of doing anything different than being involved in something creative on styling hats and singing and playing the guitar and recording and doing something in the field of entertainment to give somebody some type of enjoyment.
Sadly in search of and one step in back of themselves and their slow-moving dreams. Folks, I'd like to thank you guys for dropping in this evening. My name is Don Livingston. I'd like to say at this time, on behalf of the orchestra, the dancing girls, and a cast of thousands, it's been a sheer slice of heaven for me tonight. Remember to be what you is and not what you ain't, because if you be what you ain't, then you're not what you is. And also remember this, it's a very brave man who plays leapfrog over a unicorn. Thank you.
Each year in Japan on this day, November 15th, it is a special time for children aged 3, 5, and 7. It is called Shichi-go-san, which literally means 3, 5, and 7. This is Shichi-go-san last year at Dazaifu, near the city of Fukuoka on Japan's western coast. Cinematographer Dennis Humes and myself were there with a San Diego delegation to the Japanese-American Conference of Mayors and Chambers of Commerce Presidents. A visit to a shrine was on the schedule. That it occurred on Shichi-go-san was a delightful surprise. The area of Dazaifu is full of history. It served as the western capital of Japan during the 7th to 14th centuries. And on this 20th century day last year, the tradition of the area and the people was seen in the colorful dress. Streets crowded with mostly parents and grandparents, their youngsters, all making their way to the shrine. The shops along the street quite busy. Many of the honored children almost overwhelmed by their traditional clothing. They were all on their way to the Dazaifu Tenman Shrine, where the shrine grounds cover 3,300 acres, and an exiled 9th century Chinese scholar is enshrined. Across the several thousand acres, thousands of trees as well as people. I was told there are more than 6,000 plum trees here, and 52 huge camphor trees more than 500 years old, including this one which dates back 1,500 years. And in among the trees, the festive air of an American fair, floral displays of exceptional beauty. A row of booths with a wide variety, from dumplings to eat to things to take home. It is not all festival here in this setting, for each of the parents with the children 3, 5, and 7 will take them into the temple and there be blessed by priests, imparting the blessings of good health and wisdom for them throughout their lives. Shichi-go-san is a Shinto rite of passage for children 3, 5, and 7. It is a part of the spiritual tradition and life of Japan, emphasizing the serious importance placed upon children as the future. On the path to the shrine, a pool or well, an ablution basin you could call it, a place for cleansing your hands and rinsing your mouth. Inside the shrine, it is time to give thanks to the divine or sacred power for protection and to pray for healthy growth of the children. The priests intone their blessings on the youngsters. The ceremony is repeated throughout the day to give all an opportunity to fully observe the spiritual purposes of Shichi-go-san. Following the rites, the people rejoin the festive air outside. For a small price, buy a fortune paper. Read what the future may hold. And of course, the universal activity, taking pictures. Obviously, proud parents and grandparents encouraging the honored ones to pose for a few quick pictures. And the cooperation of the honored ones as varied as you could expect. A commercial photographer doing frantic business and providing an unexpected sideshow for residents and visitors alike. Shichi-go-san is one of 4 annual days honoring children in Japan, indicating the important place young people hold in Japanese society. A focal point, with mothers and grandparents in key supporting roles. For them, a most important natural resource.
That's our program for this week. And by the way, if you'd like that recipe for sarsa or salsa, simply send us a self-addressed stamped envelope. Next week on Jack White's Journal, we're going to take you for a hot air balloon ride with a rather interesting landing. Until next Saturday at 7, have a good week.